Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Big Blue Sports Talk, our final episode of the first semester here on SUNY Fredonia. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in on FredoniaRadio.com or WCVF 88.9 FM, the campus and community voice of Fredonia and Dunkirk. As always, I'm your host, Matt Volz, a freshman here at SUNY Fredonia, here to talk sports, so let's get to it. Before we do that, I did want to bring up, today is Wednesday, December 7th, 2022, and I did want to mention that I would be remiss if I didn't mention that 81 years ago today was the attack on Pearl Harbor when the Empire of Japan launched a surprise attack on the United States Naval Base in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, which led to the United States entering World War II, which would end up becoming the most gruesome and brutal conflict, quite possibly, in world history. And I felt like I would be totally remiss if I didn't bring that up, that today is Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, and President Roosevelt, the day after the attacks took place, he made an address to Congress, which to this day actually is the most listened to radio broadcast in our nation's history. And he mentioned that it famously said that December 7th, 1941 is a date which will forever live in infamy. And I just think it's important to make sure that, because that can feel like history in a textbook to a lot of people who were too young and did not live through it, but to those who did live through it and remember what that day was like, it's not ancient history for them. That was real life. That for a lot of people of a certain age that lived through that can still be very fresh in their memory. So I just wanted to make sure that I brought that up, because I think that it's important that we all take time to remember what took place 81 years ago today and continue to honor the fine folks in our armed forces that are defending our freedom each and every day. Okay, so now let's get to the sports at hand, and I wanted to talk about some sports news first. And of course, the big news story emerging today is not a good one. Bills defensive end Von Miller is out for the remainder of the 2022 season. Miller had an exploratory surgery procedure done earlier today, and in that procedure, it was discovered that Miller did, in fact, tear his ACL when he was injured on Thanksgiving in the Bills' win over the Detroit Lions. So Miller is out for the remainder of the season. No word on what the exact timetable for recovery is going to be. It totally really depends. Like, there's some players who will tear their ACLs very late in the season, and they'll be ready to go for the beginning of the regular season. And then you see like what happened with Tre'Davious White. He tore his ACL on Thanksgiving last year, and it was a year-long recovery process for him, and he did not return until Thanksgiving Day against the Lions. So Miller, not sure when he'll be back next year, if that is a possibility for him to be ready week 1 next year, or if he's going to miss some time in 2023. But either way, we know that Von Miller will not be back for the Bills in 2022. That's just a crushing blow, as Von Miller is now the third Buffalo Bill with a season-ending injury. The third one is, of course, Micah Hyde went down in week 2 with a neck injury, and offensive tackle Tommy Doyle also tore his ACL earlier in this season. So Hyde, Doyle, and Von Miller all out for the season. The crushing blows just keep coming, and I don't mean to make everybody in Buffalo even more, disappointed and frustrated with the Bills' injury situation. However, I did want to bring up that in practice today, Bills linebacker Matt Milano did not practice, and head coach Sean McDermott said that he is day-to-day with a leg/knee injury. On the positive front for the Bills, Deion Dawkins did practice today, so it's looking like he could be trending upward for Sunday's game against the Jets. Again, the thing about Milano is Matt Milano, he could end up playing on Sunday. Right now, we just don't know. But it looks like Deion Dawkins is definitely trending in the right direction for the Bills game at home against the New York Jets on Sunday. Other players that look like they're going to be back and ready to go, including Jordan Phillips and Tremaine Edmonds and Mitch Morse. Those guys looking like they're all definitely going to be back. So the Bills, it's tough because outside of, we already know Micah Hyde's down. We already know Tommy Doyle's down. Outside of now Von Miller being out for the season and maybe Matt Milano being day-to-day, the Bills appear to be getting healthier. No, in the last couple weeks, they've gotten Tremaine Edmonds back, Jordan Phillips, Mitch Morse. They got Tre'Davious White back on Thanksgiving. They're getting Kyer Elam back. Jordan Poyer dealt with some injury concerns. He's back now. And Gabe Davis was injured for a little bit. He's back now. Josh Allen's elbow seems to be healed up. So, overall, the Bills are getting healthier, but the blows keep coming on the injury front because I think there was hope that Von Miller could play through it with a knee brace. We learned today that will not be the case. Von Miller will not return in 2022. So hopefully, we wish Von all the best, of course, and we hope he can be back to start off 2023. And I think that Miller's injury is just yet another instance of an unfortunately timed event causing widespread cynicism within the Bills fan base. But I think that it's important to remember, I saw a tweet, several of the Buffalo Fanatics contributors were talking about, they were making a point saying, and Pierre Kingpin was the main guy who was making this point, he said, remember who we do have. Don't get so caught up in the fact that Micah Hyde and Von Miller and those guys are out. Think about who we do have. We've got a healthy Josh Allen. We've got a healthy Stephon Diggs. We've got a healthy Ed Oliver. Greg Rousseau is back healthy. Tre'Davious White is back. Kyer Elam's back. And the list goes on of players who were dealing with injuries earlier in the season and are now coming back. But unfortunately, that also is happening at the same time as the Bills lose their top pass rusher and maybe their best defensive player to a just very, very crushing ACL injury. Not sure the impact that that's going to have on him on a career long-term scale. Hopefully that effect is minimal, but we'll definitely see. And again, hopefully we will get more word as his recovery progresses as to when he will be able to be back and basically what the state of his knee is. In other sports news, one more, and then I'll get to Fredonia Sports. I just wanted to address that the Tennessee Titans earlier this week made a surprising, at least it came as a surprise to me, the Titans firing general manager John Robinson following Sunday's 35-10 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. And Robinson was kind of a complicated figure in the Titans front office because, yes, he's the guy who got them Derrick Henry, and he brought them, all sorts of players, and the Titans have had success in recent years. But I guess there's also some frustration with some moves, namely A.J. Brown getting traded and then drafting Treylon Burks, and Treylon Burks has dealt with some injury concerns. So basically, it came as a surprise to me. I was not expecting it. Typically, you don't see a general manager get fired after a bad loss, but I don't think it was just the fact that they lost by 25 points to the team with the best record in the NFL. I think that there was a lot that went into the decision, but the Tennessee Titans have fired their general manager, John Robinson. Now for a look at Fredonia Sports, the men's basketball team still looking for their first win of the season. They dropped to 0-10 last night with a 1-point loss to SUNY Brockport. The men are back in action tonight at 7 o'clock right here at the gym in Dodds Hall as they host Penn State Behrend. Tip-off is slated for 7 p.m. And then 2 games this weekend, Friday night, 7:30 at home against SUNY New Paltz, and then Saturday at 4 o'clock hosting SUNY Oneonta. For the women's basketball, they were also taking on SUNY Brockport last night. And again, another close loss, 70-68. SUNY Fredonia falls by 2. The Blue Devils dropping to 3-6 on the season. And like the men's team, the women's team is not in action tonight. However, 2 home weekend games for the women's team. Friday at 5:30 against SUNY New Paltz, and then Saturday at 2 against SUNY Oneonta. The swimming and diving teams just wrapped up this past weekend. They headed out to SUNY Cortland for the Cortland Snow Flurries Invitational and actually came away with some pretty good results. Overall, the men's team finished 4th out of 7 teams. Patrick McCrone finished first in the 100 backstroke and the 200 backstroke, and some relay teams also coming in the top 5. The men's swim and dive, they will next be in action on Saturday, January 28th. So they've got a while before their next meet. They will head to SUNY Brockport to take on Brockport and Alfred State on January 28th. For the women's team, they were also at the Cortland Snowflakes, I think Snow Flurries individual. That's what it was called. And they also had some pretty good results in an overall team score. They ended up coming in 4th out of 7 teams, and they actually had a relay that won, as well as they had a couple athletes who won their individual events or took pretty high places. So congratulations to their team for a really good showing in Cortland at the Cortland Snow Flurries Invitational. Like the men's team, the women's will not be in action until Saturday, January 28th for a 1 o'clock afternoon swim meet at SUNY Brockport against Brockport and Alfred State. For the men's hockey team, and then we will play a little bit of music for you and talk about some sports scores. Men's hockey team dropping to 2-7. They split their weekend games this past weekend. A home game against Brockport on Friday night, a 1-0 win for SUNY Fredonia. Ryan Bailey scoring a shorthanded goal midway through the 3rd period for the only goal of the game. So a 1-0 win over SUNY Brockport, and that's important because that is Fredonia's first conference win of this season. And Logan Dick getting a shutout win for SUNY Fredonia, his first of the season, as he stops all 39 SUNY Brockport shots. On Saturday night, a 4-0 loss to the hands of the SUNY Geneseo Knights. As the game, it was close early on. I mean, for the first while of this game, almost the first 2 periods, it was a scoreless game. Then Peter Morgan scored with a minute left in the 2nd period to give Geneseo a 1-0 lead. And then 3 third-period goals, 2 of them on the power play, gave SUNY Geneseo a 4-0 win. Blue Devils back in action. They've got 2 home games this weekend to close out the semester. Friday night at 7 p.m. hosting SUNY Cortland, and then Saturday night at 7 p.m. hosting the Lakers of SUNY Oswego, and then they won't be in action until January 10th. So they got a month off after this weekend, but 2 home games on Friday and Saturday night. So that'll do it for the first segment of our show. We'll take just a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about some scores around the NFL and NHL and recap the NBA scores, and we'll also recap some of baseball's biggest free agent signings. Of course, the main one is that Aaron Judge is returning to the New York Yankees, but we will get to all of that and more later. Thanks for tuning in on Big Blue Sports Talk on FredoniaRadio.com or WCVF 88.9 FM, the campus and community voice of Fredonia and Dunkirk.
something to pull the sheep across the field. Bag of grass and straw. How can it keep growing? How can it keep growing? Be hard on yourself. You've been spoiled for years. Be hard on yourself. You'll be glad you did. You'll be glad you did. Run towards the things that scare you. I dare. There's a tear in the big picture. Can't burn it. That's a fix it. I heard you say life's what you settle for. Nobody told you this can be more. Scrape it, get ready, put it down, push the button, blow it all up, and be hard on yourself. Strap it, get ready, put it down, push the button, blow it all up, and be hard on yourself.
You're listening to WCVF 88.9 FM, the voice of Fredonia.
Welcome back to Big Blue Sports Talk. So the next segment of our show, want to talk about some scores going on around the professional sports leagues. So last week, we'll start off with the NFL as we always do. So last week, the Bills traveled to New England to take on the Patriots for a Thursday night game. Josh Allen throwing 2 touchdown passes as well as a nice game from Stephon Diggs. And the Bills beat the Patriots 24-10. Buffalo improves to 9-3 on the season. The Patriots dropping to 6-6. Sunday's games, the Steelers getting a close win over the Falcons in Atlanta, winning 19-16. Pittsburgh is 5-7. Atlanta drops to 5-8, but they're still sitting in second in the NFC South. Up in Chicago, the Packers come back and outscore the Bears 18-0 in the fourth quarter to beat Chicago 28-19. Packers improved to 5-8. Bears dropped to 3-10, and the Bears were eliminated from playoff contention this weekend as well. The Lions getting a big win over the Jacksonville Jaguars thanks to 340 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air from quarterback Jared Goff. The Lions improved to 5-7, and their playoff hopes are not dead yet. Jags dropped to 4-8, and they're 1-5 on the road this year. The Vikings hang on to beat the Mike White-led New York Jets 27-22. Vikings improving to 10-2 on the season. They've won 6 of 7 at home this year. Jets dropping to 7-5, but are still in the thick of the AFC playoff race. We had a tie this week. What do you know about that? Everyone's favorite. Just kidding. Everyone hates them. The Washington Commanders tie the New York Giants 20-20 as the... You can't even really say, like, with a win, you say they improved to this. With a loss, they dropped to this. With a tie, what is it? Like they just kind of walk into it? Like they just accept? I don't know. The Commanders are 7-5-1. Giants are 7-4-1. Both teams still in the thick of the NFC playoff race. In Philadelphia, the Eagles take control behind 380 yards and 3 touchdowns from Jalen Hurts. Ryan Tannehill was the Titans' leading rusher with 3 carries for 34 yards. Eagles improved to 11-1 on the season. Titans dropping to 7-5. A low-scoring game in Baltimore after Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson went down with an injury. Backup quarterback Tyler Huntley leads the Ravens to a 10-9 win over the Denver Broncos. Ravens improving to 8-4. And for right now, they remain tied with the Cincinnati Bengals for the top of the AFC North. Broncos dropping to 3-9. In Deshaun Watson's return, He was rusty, however, good enough to lead the Browns to a 27-14 win over his former Texans team in Houston. Browns improved to 5-7 on the season. Texans dropping to 1-10-1. In Los Angeles, the Rams Super Bowl slump continues with a 27-23 home loss to the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith continues his impressive year with 367 yards and 3 touchdowns passing in the win. Seahawks improving to 7-5 on the season. They currently sit in second place in the AFC West. Rams dropping to 3-9. And the Rams, it should be noted, the Carolina Panthers this past week made the move to release quarterback Baker Mayfield, and the Rams decided to pick him up on waivers. So it is expected the Rams are playing the Raiders on Thursday night. It is possible that Baker Mayfield does get the start for the Rams in that game. In San Francisco, Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel, the former 49ers offensive coordinator, was looking for a revenge, or not a revenge, but looking for a win against his former team. And despite 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo breaking his foot early in the game, Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy leads the 49ers to a 33-17 win over the Dolphins. 49ers improved to 8-4. They remain in first place in the NFC West. Dolphins dropping to 8-4, and they fall to second in the AFC East. Garoppolo, we know, is possibly out for the season with this broken foot that he sustained early in that game. In Cincinnati, a rematch of last year's AFC Championship between the Chiefs and the Bengals, and Joe Burrow remains perfect against Patrick Mahomes. He's played him 3 times. He's beaten him 3 times. Bengals beat the Chiefs 27-24 to improve to 8-4 on the season. Kansas City drops to 9-3 and falls out of the number 1 seed in the AFC. That spot now belongs to the Buffalo Bills. In Vegas, the Raiders beating the Chargers 27-20, and this Raiders team seems to be picking up steam as of late. They're now 5-7, and their playoff hopes are not gone yet. The Chargers dropping to 6-6. Sunday night in Dallas, a game that got out of hand very quickly down the stretch as the Cowboys score 33 points in the fourth quarter to blow out the Colts 54-19. Dallas improves to 9-3 on the season. They've won 6 of 7 at home this year. Colts dropping to 4-8-1. On Monday night, Tom Brady leads the Bucs down the field on a last-minute drive that led to a touchdown pass, and the Bucs beat the New Orleans Saints 17-16. Tampa Bay improves to 6-6, and they remain in first place in the NFC South. Saints dropping to 4-9. The Arizona Cardinals and Carolina Panthers were on their bye weeks this past week. This week in action, a few teams, 6 teams on their bye week this upcoming week. The Atlanta Falcons, Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, Indianapolis Colts, New Orleans Saints, and Washington Commanders all have their bye weeks this week. I would have to imagine that would be the latest bye weeks. I can't imagine anybody would have one later than that. Yes, this is the last week of bye weeks. So from here on out, 16 games a week. Tomorrow night, 8:15 on Amazon Prime Video, the 3-9 LA Rams hosting the 5-7 Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders open up as 6-point favorites. Baker Mayfield could start for the Rams in the game. On Sunday, the main game we'll be watching, of course, the 9-3 Bills hosting the 7-5 New York Jets, who we expect to be led by quarterback Mike White over Zach Wilson. The Von Millerless Bills look to move on and still hang on to the number 1 seed in the AFC as well as the division lead. Other 1 o'clock games include the 8-4 Bengals hosting the 5-7 Browns. Battle of Texas as the 9-3 Cowboys host the 1-10-1 Texans. NFC North contest as the 5-7 Detroit Lions host the 10-2 Minnesota Vikings. AFC South matchup between the 7-5 Titans and the 4-8 Jags in Nashville. The 7-4-1 New York Giants hosting the 11-1 Philadelphia Eagles. And the 5-7 Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the 8-4 Baltimore Ravens. So most of those 1 o'clock games, divisional matchups. At 4:05, the 3-9 Denver Broncos hosting the 9-3 Kansas City Chiefs. 2 4:25 games this week as the 8-4 San Francisco 49ers host the 6-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the 7-5 Seattle Seahawks at home against the 4-8 Carolina Panthers, who are looking for their first road win of the season. 8:20 on NBC Sunday Night Football, the 6-6 Los Angeles Chargers hosting the 8-4 Miami Dolphins. And then on Monday night, it's the 4-8 Arizona Cardinals, who are just 1-6 at home this season, hosting the 6-6 New England Patriots. So that's a look at your NFL scores. We'll talk more about Bills, Jets, and the remainder of the Bills games coming up, as this is our last show of the semester, of course. In the NHL, Sabres back in action tonight at 7:30. They head to Columbus to take on the Blue Jackets. That game is a national TV game. It will be aired on TNT. You can listen to Dan Dunleavy and Rob Ray call the game on WGR 550 in Buffalo. The games last night, the New Jersey Devils continue their hot start to the season and shut out the Chicago Blackhawks 3-0 behind a shutout, 24-save shutout from Vitek Vanacek. Devils are 21-4-1 on the season. Blackhawks are 7-14-4. The LA Kings head into Ottawa and beat the Senators 5-2 behind 2 goals from Victor Arvidsson and a 3-point night from Anze Kopitar. Kings improved to 14-10-4. Senators dropped to 10-14-1. The Blue Jackets, who of course will host the Sabres tonight, went to Pittsburgh last night and fell 4-1 behind 2 goals from Sidney Crosby. Pittsburgh wins their 14th of the year. Blue Jackets dropped to 8-14-2. The Detroit Red Wings head into Tampa Bay and beat the Lightning 4-2. Ville Husso stops 44 of 46 Tampa Bay shots, as the Red Wings come away with a 4-2 win and improve to 13-7-5 on the season. Lightning dropping to 15-9-1. The St. Louis Blues headed out to Long Island last night and came away with a 7-4 win. Josh Lavo and Justin Falk with 2-point nights. The Blues improved to 12-14 on the season. Islanders dropped to 16-11. The Winnipeg Jets hosting the Florida Panthers last night. They come away with a 5-2 win behind 2-goal nights from both Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. Jets improved to 16-7-1. Panthers dropped to 12-10-4. The Toronto Maple Leafs went into Dallas last night. Matt Murray coming away with a 44-save shutout as the Leafs beat the Dallas Stars 4-0. Toronto is 16-5-6 on the season. Stars dropping to 14-7-5. Ryan Strome with an overtime winner for the Anaheim Ducks last night over the Carolina Hurricanes 4-3. As the Ducks win their 7th game of the season, they improved to 7-17-3. Carolina is 14-6-6. And in the final game of last night, the Montreal Canadiens heading up to Seattle and beating the Kraken 14-2. However, it was not without a bright spot for Seattle as Shane Wright scored his first NHL goal. Montreal is 13-11-2 on the season. Seattle 15-7-3. The games tonight, of course, we already mentioned Sabres at Blue Jackets, 7:30 on TNT. Other games tonight at 7 o'clock, the Philadelphia Flyers hosting the Washington Capitals. Calgary Flames hosting the Minnesota Wild at 8 o'clock. The Colorado Avalanche will host the 23-1 Boston Bruins at 9 o'clock tonight. And I should mention Boston, 20 wins, 3 losses, 1 overtime or shootout loss. They are not 23-1, they are 23-1. 9:30 tonight, the Edmonton Oilers hosting the Arizona Coyotes. 10 o'clock on TNT, the Vegas Golden Knights hosting the New York Rangers following the conclusion of the Sabres at Blue Jackets game. And then at 10:30, the San Jose Sharks hosting the Vancouver Canucks. Let's take a look at the NBA scores, and then we'll talk about some baseball free agency moves, because with winter meetings, there's been a lot that have gone on. So the games last night, the Cleveland Cavaliers beating the LA Lakers 116-102 behind a 43-point night from Donovan Mitchell. Cavs improved to 16-9 on the season. They are 11-1 at home this year. Lakers dropping to 10-13. The Pistons head down to Miami and beat the Miami Heat 116-96. Detroit improved to 7-19 on the year. The Heat dropped to 11-14. And a 1-point win for the Dallas Mavericks in Denver, beating the Nuggets 116-115. Mavericks are 13-11. The Nuggets dropping to 14-10. The games on tonight, the first game in action in Orlando at 7 o'clock, the 5-20 Magic hosting the 14-11 LA Clippers. 7:30 tonight, a few games. The Brooklyn Nets hosting the Charlotte Hornets. Also at 7:30, the New York Knicks hosting the Atlanta Hawks. That game on ESPN. And the Toronto Raptors playing host to the LA Lakers. Couple 8 o'clock games tonight. The Chicago Bulls hosting the Washington Wizards. The Memphis Grizzlies at home against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Milwaukee Bucks hosting the Sacramento Kings, the Minnesota Timberwolves hosting the Indiana Pacers, and the New Orleans Pelicans hosting the Detroit Pistons. At 9 o'clock, the Utah Jazz hosting the Golden State Warriors. And then 10 o'clock on ESPN, it's the Phoenix Suns at home against the Boston Celtics. So that's a look at your NBA outlook for tonight. Now let's take a look at the signings that have gone on across Major League Baseball. And holy cow, have there been some big ones. We already knew going into the beginning of the week that there were a few very notable deals that were made. Of course, last week, the Texas Rangers signing two-time Cy Young winner Jacob DeGrom away from the New York Mets. DeGrom signs a 5-year, $185 million deal with the Texas Rangers. And, of course, this deal is kind of the third big free agent signing that the Rangers have made in the last couple of years. Of course, they signed both Corey Seager and Marcus Semien to big contracts in the offseason last year. So DeGrom is heading down to Texas to be the newest member of the Rangers. The Dodgers re-signed Clayton Kershaw to a 1-year deal worth $20 million. The Mets get their replacement for DeGrom as they sign the ageless wonder Justin Verlander to a 2-year, $86 million deal. The Philadelphia Phillies signed shortstop Trey Turner. They signed Turner to fill their void at shortstop. 11 years, $300 million. That includes a full no-trade clause according to ESPN. So Trey Turner is a Philadelphia Philly. The Yankees signing right-hander Tommy Conley to help out their bullpen. 2 years, $11.5 million. But that's not the big signing that the Yankees made. No, it was not, because Aaron Judge, there'd been a lot of kind of thought as, is Judge going to leave the Yankees? Is he going to go to somewhere like the Giants or maybe even the Padres, or is he going to stay? Aaron Judge decided to stay in New York, signing a 9-year, $360 million contract. Sources confirmed to ESPN. That's a big contract for Aaron Judge. However, for the Yankees, he's the face of their franchise. It's understandable why they'd be willing to spend that much money. Cody Bellinger departing from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Bellinger signing a 1-year deal with the Chicago Cubs worth $17.5 million. Andrew Heaney signing a 2-year, $25 million deal with the Texas Rangers. Josh Bell signs a 2-year deal to become the newest member of the Cleveland Guardians. The Mets continue to kind of lose pieces of their rotation as Taijuan Walker has agreed to a 4-year, $72 million contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. The San Francisco Giants sign outfielder Mitch Haniger to a 3-year, $43.5 million contract. So I guess you can call that a consolation price for not getting Judge, although when they signed him, they said this does not rule us out of still getting Judge. They were still chasing him down. Jameson Taillon has signed a 4-year, $68 million deal with the Chicago Cubs to be the newest member of their rotation. Earlier today, a few other moves made. The New York Mets signing left-hander Jose Quintana to a 2-year, $26 million contract. So Quintana leaving the Cardinals to go to Queens to play with the New York Mets. So the Mets in their rotation, Jacob DeGrom and Taijuan Walker are gone, and in come Justin Verlander and Jose Quintana. The Boston Red Sox signed closer Kenley Jansen to a 2-year, $32 million contract. And the one that broke earlier today, the St. Louis Cardinals signing catcher Wilson Contreras away from the Chicago Cubs. 5 years, $87.5 million for Contreras, who will be the new starting catcher for the St. Louis Cardinals for the foreseeable future. Contreras seems to be the Cardinals' heir apparent to Yadier Molina, who, of course, retired in the offseason. And that move particularly is significant to me. I am a St. Louis Cardinals fan, as I've mentioned, I believe, on this program before. But the Cardinals signed Contreras to a 5-year deal. Some other decent free agents are still out there. Not sure where exactly they will sign. Carlos Rodon, I know, has been linked to the New York Yankees. And also the Oakland A's are in talks to trade catcher Sean Murphy. And I know the Cardinals were heavily in discussions with the A's to try and maybe get Sean Murphy in a trade. However, they end up signing Wilson Contreras away from the division rival Chicago Cubs. So that'll do it for this segment of the show. We'll take a quick break. I just want to thank all of our listeners out there. I understand my mom is listening to this show, so hi, Mom. Hope you enjoy it. I want to thank all of our listeners tuning in on FredoniaRadio.com and WCVF FM 88.9. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be right back to talk about the Sabres game tonight against the Columbus Blue Jackets, as well as preview the Bills game on Sunday against the New York Jets and talk about what the rest of their season looks like now in the absence of Von Miller. So stay with us. Got a lot more to talk about on Big Blue Sports Talk. Thanks for tuning in.
You can't get enough of WCVF 88.9, can you? Well, in that case, you should check us out on the Fredonia Radio YouTube channel. We upload some of our weekly shows as well as some exclusive content. Listen to the new stuff as well as the old. Search Fredonia Radio on YouTube and subscribe now.
All right, welcome back to Big Blue Sports Talk. Before we get going and talk about the Buffalo Sabres, I want to read our weekly Grapevine announcement. Join the cast and crew for a free screening of student short film Love's a Wash this Friday at 8 p.m. in Fenton Hall, room 105. This student short film stars Dylan Burley, Delaney Gruber, Emma Crispin, and Luke Brewer. And production member Kendall Catch says that the cast and crew are very proud of their work and would like as many people as possible to see the film. So go make sure that you tune in and see Love's a Wash. So for the Sabres are heading to Columbus tonight to take on the Blue Jackets, 7:30 on TNT. Right now, as an overall season record, the Sabres are sitting at 11-13-1, 23 points. Buffalo is in 7th place in the Atlantic Division and roughly about 8 points out of a playoff spot. Sabres are coming off of a 6-3 win over the San Jose Sharks on Sunday, and they'll look to make it 2 in a row against the Blue Jackets, who have definitely struggled as of late. They lost 4-1 to the Penguins in Pittsburgh last night. So let's just take a look back at Sunday night's game between the Sabres and the Sharks. Dylan Cousins with 3 assists in the game as he was named the NHL second star of the week. A 2-goal night for Jack Quinn as well. Buffalo outshot San Jose 38-29. Tage Thompson scored the first goal of the game, getting his 16th of the year on the power play. Midway through the first with assists coming from Rasmus Dahlin and Dylan Cousins. Nick Bonino answered a few minutes later with his first goal of the year with assists from Luke Kunin and Erik Karlsson to tie the game at 1 before Kevin LeBanc would get his 5th of the year on the power play with about 4 minutes left in the first. Matt Benning and Matt Nieto with the assist. 2-1 San Jose after 1. The second period was all Buffalo. J.J. Peterka getting his 6th of the year just 16 seconds into the frame with the assist coming from Dylan Cousins to tie the game at 2. 4:21 into the second, Jeff Skinner scores his 12th of the year with an assist from Henry Jokiharju. Buffalo takes a 3-2 lead. And then later in the period on the power play, Jack Quinn scoring his 5th of the year with assists coming from Victor Olofsson and Rasmus Dahlin. 4-2 Buffalo after 2. In the third, midway through, Jack Quinn scores his 6th of the year, 2nd of the game with the assist coming from Dylan Cousins. Buffalo takes a 5-2 lead. The Sharks would answer right back as just 29 seconds later, Oscar Lindblom would score his 1st of the year with assists from Mark-Edward Vlasic and Logan Couture to cut the lead to 5-3. And then Alex Tuch would score an empty netter, his 12th of the year, gets the assist from Skinner and Thompson. Buffalo wins it 6-3. The Sharks drop to 8-16-4. Buffalo is 11-12-1, and the Sabres were wearing the red and black goat head jerseys, which many people love so much. I love those jerseys as well. Sabres will be wearing their reverse retros when they host the Penguins on Friday night. And then next week, Tuesday night against the Los Angeles Kings at home, Buffalo will be wearing the red and black again. So Buffalo in Columbus against the Blue Jackets, it's a game that no game in the NHL is a guarantee. We know that, but this is a very winnable game for Buffalo, at least in my imagination. This is a game that Buffalo could definitely win this game. They've got a few games that they really could either keep it close or they could come away with a win. Buffalo's 11-13-1. They are 7th in the Atlantic, yes, but playoffs are possible for this team. I think that there's been too much of an emphasis placed on, we have to be very careful with our development. We have to be sure that we're not rushing any guys. And yes, that's understandable, but I also feel like you can develop your players and have success and win games at the same time. You can make moves that will help you have success now that will also help you to have success later. And I think that a lot of people are saying, well, the Sabres probably shouldn't be very active at the deadline. They got to be careful because they've got young players and they want to develop them. And I understand that. But this is a team that right now has scored the second most goals in the NHL. I believe that figure is still the case. Buffalo scored 92 goals this year. The problem is the Sabres also give up a lot of goals. And that is both, I think, a problem with the defense and the goaltending. But let's look at Buffalo's goaltender numbers. So Craig Anderson has been their best. Looks like Luukkonen will get the start tonight. Anderson is 5-4 with a 2.87 goals against average and a .916 save percentage. While that's not necessarily earth-shattering, that's not bad. I mean, the goals against average that's decent. The save percentage is actually pretty solid. A .916 save percentage is very, very solid. Eric Comrie, before he went down, was 4-7 with a 3.62 goals against average and an .887 save percentage. That's not really super pretty. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's numbers. He's 2-2-1. His goals against average is 3.98, and his save percentage is 863. For comparison, if you have a goals against average over 3, that's probably not very good. A save percentage under 900 is probably not very good. The fact that Luukkonen's save percentage is closer to 850 than it is to 900, and his goals against, he's letting in almost 4 goals a game. That is yes, and it's so. When you have a high save percentage or a good save percentage and a goals against average that's not so great, that a lot of times can be indicative of your defense ahead of you, because that sometimes will mean that you're being faced with a lot of shots, and the reason why you're giving up more goals is because you're facing a lot more shots, but you're still stopping a good percentage of them. When you have a bad save percentage, that probably means that you as a goaltender are not stopping shots that you should be stopping. And Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, I'm not going to rush too quickly calling him a bust or anything crazy like that, but his numbers are alarming. And I honestly think that the Sabres would be well suited to make some moves. I think that they've got some guys that just, it's not really working out. I don't know if I've talked about it on this show, but Victor Olofsson is somebody whose name has been in some trade rumors. Now, we know Olofsson as having an elite shot, great power play weapon. However, Olofsson's numbers at 5-on-5 are not very good, and his defensive metrics are not great either. So, really, a team, in my mind, the way I see it, I think that a playoff team might actually be like a playoff caliber team may be very interested in acquiring somebody like Victor Olofsson to help out their power play. Don't really necessarily worry about him at 5-on-5. Just put him on the power play, and he'll go out there and he'll score some power play goals. He may score some big goals for you. He's a good player. I feel like the Sabres need guys who are good at 5-on-5 and on the penalty kill and good overall players rather than guys who just have a great shot and are not really excelling at anything else. And then Casey Middlestat is another issue. Casey Middlestat was a top 10 pick, and he is in a slump right now. He is absolutely in a slump right now. Now, Middlestat, he kind of has a target on his back from the fan base, which sometimes it's not necessarily deserved. Sometimes it is a little bit, but I just feel like I've always gotten the sense that Middlestat may be able to perform better. Middlestat's one of those guys who I feel might be well suited for a change of scenery. Like if I wonder how Middlestat would do if he were to be traded to another team. And the discussions of, the Sabres have been in talks of maybe getting Jacob Chikrin from the Arizona Coyotes. There's been talks of all sorts of other guys. But I think that Middlestat might benefit from a change of scenery, and I think a playoff team would be very interested in having Victor Olofsson, and trading those two guys may allow you to get some other guys into the lineup. Maybe you wouldn't have to rotate out guys like Rasmus Asplund or Peyton Krebs or Vinny Hinostroza after that. Maybe you can have those guys as everyday players and see how they make an impact. See what you have in guys like Peyton Krebs. Rasmus Asplund's a great defensive forward. The problem is when you have guys like Middlestat and Olofsson, who, by the way, are not producing right now at all. You have guys like Middlestat and Olofsson who aren't really doing much, and that kind of hampers Buffalo's bottom six and makes them not put up as much offense as the Sabres would like. So definitely some things to think about there. And then the goaltending is another issue. And you really think about if Buffalo had a consistently solid goaltender, would this team be in playoff contention? I think so. I think they'd be in playoff contention because you've got a team that is scoring a lot of goals and a very young team. I think if you go out and get a somewhat solid goaltender who can play good minutes for you, I think this team's got a shot at maybe sneaking into the playoffs. So Sabres Blue Jackets tonight at 7:30. Make sure to tune in. Buffalo going for their second win in a row. We will take just a short break. When we come back, we will finish up the show talking about the Bills on Sunday against the Jets, as well as the rest of their season. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Big Blue Sports Talk for all the episodes that I've done this semester, and I'll be back next semester with another season, if you want to call it, of Big Blue Sports Talk. So thanks everybody for tuning in over these last 2 months or so. We started in, I believe it was first week of October. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We're going to take just a short break, then talk about the Bills, and then we will be off on our way, and I will see you in a little while, a handful of weeks. So thanks for tuning in. We'll take just a quick break.
My heart only speaks when you are near. Sweet poetry lines whisper in my ears. When you're not around, no meaning can be found. Emotionless days reappear. My heart only speaks when you are near. It sings songs of love I often hear. When you're not around, no comfort can be found. The warmth of your embrace disappears. My heart only speaks when you are near. When alone with me, my heart travels down these crooked roads, tangled in the weeds of life. No voice or words to explain the joy, the pain, or make some sense of life for me. My heart only speaks when you are near. My heart doesn't know when love should care. When you're not around, the awful silent sound. My heart only speaks when you are near. My heart only speaks when you are near. My heart only speaks when you are near. You
Broadcasting live out of the Fredonia Radio Studios, we are 88.9 WCVF, the voice of Fredonia.
All right, welcome back to our final segment of Big Blue Sports Talk. We're talking Buffalo Bills, of course. And as we always do, this day in Buffalo sports history is a rather recent one. Just 2 years ago, December 7th, 2020, the Bills had a Monday night game against the 49ers. It was played in Arizona due to California's coronavirus protocols. The Bills beat San Francisco 34-24 behind a 375-yard, 4-touchdown pass night from Allen. Buffalo would improve to 9-3 on their way to 13-3 and an AFC championship appearance. Hey, the Bills are 9-3 right now, which may be in the back of a lot of people's minds now that Von Miller is out for the season. But the Bills are hosting the New York Jets on Sunday at 1 o'clock on CBS. According to ESPN's matchup predictor, the Bills have an 82.3% chance to win the game. Buffalo opens up as a 9.5-point favorite, and we imagine that Mike White will probably start for the New York Jets in this game. So what can we be looking to expect for the Bills and the Jets this Sunday? Buffalo's offense really has to come out and play. Buffalo's offense really has to play at their best because we know that the Jets have one of the top defenses in the NFL. We saw it when the Bills traveled to New Jersey and lost to the Jets just a few weeks ago. The Jets' defense is very, very good. So Allen has to be sharp. He's got to be on point with his throws, cannot make mistakes. Buffalo needs to avoid turnovers, got to limit those big plays defensively. And the Bills offense really needs to score because with this Jets defense, how good they are, points could be at a premium. So Buffalo really needs to take advantage of opportunities in the red zone as well, which has been a struggle point for them this year, as we know. On the defensive side of the ball, Buffalo's defense basically just has to contain Mike White because it seems like every time Mike White starts, he's throwing for 350 yards and a few touchdowns. So the Bills secondary really needs to be on point, making sure they're locking down those Jets pass catchers and basically put as much pressure on Mike White as you can with Von Miller now out. So the Bills, of course, hosting the Jets, and now the remainder of their season, they have a Saturday night home game against the Miami Dolphins on December 17th. Then the Bills will travel to Chicago for a Christmas Eve 1 o'clock afternoon matchup with the Chicago Bears. Then the Bills will finish out the year with a game in Cincinnati on Monday Night Football. They won't finish out the year. They'll be in Cincinnati for a Monday Night Football game on January 2nd, their final road game of the season. And then January 7th or 8th, it'll either be Saturday or Sunday, Buffalo will host New England, and that will be their final regular season game of 2022. Buffalo, of course, controls their own destiny to the number one seed in the AFC. They also control their own destiny within their own division. So basically, if Buffalo can take care of business and win those games, the AFC playoffs could run through Orchard Park. That will do it for the, I guess if you want to call it, Season 1 finale of Big Blue Sports Talk. I want to thank everybody at Fredonia Radio Systems and WCVF who make this show possible, as well as everybody listening in on FredoniaRadio.com or on the dial at 88.9 FM. We'll be back for Season 2 when the second semester begins. So thanks everybody for tuning in and making this show something that I've really enjoyed doing and making this show just really, really special to me. When we come back, we will be in the thick of the NFL playoffs. The NHL season will be a little bit past halfway, and we'll be getting ever so closer to baseball starting back up. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in for the first segment of shows that we've had. That'll do it for us on Big Blue Sports Talk. Have a good one, everybody.